Revenge films.
That day, I was coming back from a business trip. Even though it was a business trip, it was only to the neighboring state, so it wasn't far. But I couldn't wait to get back to my wife and daughter. I'll admit it myself, but I was obsessed with my family, and spending just a few days away from them was hard. When I was about to start the journey back, I called my wife to say, I'm about to head home.
Be careful on the way back. What time do you think you'll be home?
It really depends on traffic. I want to come back as soon as possible. I think by the nighttime I should be there.
Okay, got it. Ashley can't wait to see you too. Daddy, hurry up and come home.
Aw, Daddy's on his way. I'll get there as fast as I can.
Okay, Mommy and I will be good girls and we'll be waiting for you.
I let them know that I'd be arriving at night and hung up the phone. The roads were fairly empty in the beginning, but towards the middle of the drive, there started to be a little bit of traffic. Makes sense. I guess in the evening, everybody's trying to get home. I was mindlessly talking to myself while staring at the car in front of me when suddenly I got a phone call from a friend that lived nearby in our neighborhood. Hey, John, did you get the news? News? What news? I haven't heard anything. What's up? My friend sounded weirdly panicked, and I thought it was strange when he exclaimed, Your wife and Ashley were stabbed! They were out for a walk in the evening and were attacked out of nowhere! I slammed on the brakes at his shocking words. I was about to crash the car, so I pulled over to the side of the road. Is that real? Oh, when did this happen? Are my wife and Ashley okay? I don't know. I heard the ambulance go by and I was just told what happened, so I didn't see anything. All right, thanks. I'm gonna speed up the car and get back as soon as possible. If you know anything, hear anything, whatever it is, please let me know. You got it. Hey, be careful. You better not get into an accident yourself. Your wife and Ashley need you. We can't let something happen to you either. I barely heard the rest of my friend's words as I hung up the phone and floored the pedal of my car, going full speed into the sea of cars. I completely ignored the speed limit and went weaving through the cars in front of me, passing as many as I could. I could hear my friend's voice inside my head saying that my wife and my daughter were stabbed, and then telling me to be careful driving. But I didn't care if I got into an accident at that point. I just wanted to get home as soon as possible. However, I was way over the speed limit and racing through, and it wasn't long before a police car was right on my tail. Stop the car and pull over! Stop the car and pull over! I could hear the policeman yelling at me through the speakers. I knew I was doing the wrong thing, but I was so worried about my wife and my daughter that I ignored them and kept driving. I heard the speaker go off again. The car in front of us! You're over the speed limit! Stop the car immediately! I eventually realized I couldn't outrun the police, so I was forced to pull over to the side of the road. Hey, you! Couldn't you hear us? You're way over the speed limit! What if you caused that accident? At the speed you were going, somebody could have died! Most likely you! They were yelling at me, but I was overcome with a mixed feeling of nerves and being in a rush, so I said, It doesn't matter what happens to me! I don't care if I die! But please, let me go home! My wife! My daughter! Before I knew it, I was sobbing in front of the policeman. Even the police could tell that I wasn't faking it, so they did their best to try to calm me down. What happened? I got a phone call saying that my wife and daughter were stabbed on the street. It was a hit and run. Stabbed? In a hit and run? Is it true? The two policemen were shocked as they looked at each other. Yes, but I don't even know if they're alive or dead right now, so I don't care how much of a fine I have to pay. I'll go to jail or whatever you need to take me. But please, I need to get back to them. Please, let me go see my wife and daughter now. All right, we can deal with your speeding ticket later. What's your address? We can radio in to ask about incidents in that area. Thank you very much. I gave the policeman my address and they radioed over to the police station to see what they could find. It seems like your wife has been transported to the Smith Hospital in town. She's still alive, but that's as far as they know right now. Anyway, let's hurry. Follow us and stay close behind. What? We will clear the way for you with our car, so you need to stop with your reckless driving. Family's gonna be okay. We can't have you driving so dangerously, putting yourself and everyone around you at risk of an accident. I'm sorry. I was overwhelmed by the kindness of the policemen who had pulled me over to arrest me. Even more touched by their help in finding out my family's situation and helping me get there safely. I sobbed again, but quickly got back in my car and followed the police car towards the hospital. When we arrived at the hospital, my wife and daughter had already been treated for their wounds and were sleeping. Thank heavens that you're both alive. When I was finally able to get the words out of my mouth, my wife opened her eyes.
Honey, you're here. You came back for us.
Are you okay? What about Ashley?
Ashley should be okay. I did my best to cover her in the attack.
I see. I'm just so glad to see that you're okay. Once I was able to confirm that they were both fine and embraced my wife, I went back to the two policemen to thank them. Thank you very much! Thanks to your help, I was able to get to my wife and daughter quickly and safely. We're also glad to see that your wife and daughter are okay. That's the most important thing. Yes! Look, due to the circumstances of this incident, we will table your speeding ticket this time. You better promise me that you'll never drive that recklessly ever again. Otherwise, you might become the one putting other people in the hospital. You got that? I swear, on my life! It turns out that those two policemen were unable to get involved in the investigation since it was out of their jurisdiction. But they told me that they would pray for the criminal to get caught soon, and they left the scene. I wanted to find the bastard myself who did this to my precious wife and daughter. But of course, I had to leave the investigation to the hands of the police. However, he was wearing a hoodie deep over his face and also had a mask on. The police said it was going to be difficult to identify a suspect. A little while later, I got a call from my father-in-law that a suspect was in custody. Let me handle this person who stabbed my daughter and my granddaughter. You just stay by their side and take care of them. My father-in-law said to me with a dignified voice. For better or for worse, my wife's family is actually the chief of a certain gang in town. With this incident, when I heard that my wife and daughter had been stabbed by a hit and run, I was of course livid. But my father-in-law was on another level and immediately sent the members of his gang to go looking for the suspect. Since the suspect was in a hoodie and a mask and was in an area without any security cameras, we had been told that it was going to be really difficult to find the suspect. However, my father-in-law used all the power and tools that he had to seek out the suspect at all costs. It's true that my father-in-law was feared within society, but to my daughter, he was a regular total softy grandpa. And to me and my wife, he was like any other dad you would find in the neighborhood. He welcomed me into the family and treated me as his own, and he held his family very close. There was no way that my father-in-law was going to let someone stab his precious family and let it go. For the suspect, he may have thought that he was attacking a random woman and girl. I'm sure even he couldn't have imagined that he was laying hands on the family of a gang chief. But it was too late for that. My father-in-law had one rule for me and my family, and he had drawn one line for us. I was always sure to never cross that line, knowing that we lived in completely different worlds. That's why I never found out what happened to the suspect this time. But I also never asked my father-in-law. I did find out that the criminal had actually stabbed multiple people before getting to my wife and daughter. I truly thought my heart was going to stop when I found out that my wife and daughter were stabbed. And when I heard that there were multiple other people who went through the same thing, it was unforgivable. After some time had passed, I asked one of the younger gang members what happened to that criminal, and he told me a little bit. That he lost all of his fingers and was thrown back to the street, and no one knows where he's wandering now. I didn't care to know much further or investigate anymore, but without knowing it, this man had crossed the line and gotten himself into the gang's world. My wife and my daughter were eventually discharged from the hospital without any major injuries or after effects from being stabbed. Ashley, are you okay? Does anything hurt?
Yeah, nothing hurts. I'm okay, Daddy.
Oh yeah? Well, I'm glad. And you were amazing protecting Ashley with your own body. Thank you.
Of course, that was a given. Anyway, was the suspect caught?
Yeah, your father found them eventually and gave him the punishment he deserved.
I see.
My wife is the daughter of a gang chief, after all. She has seen and experienced that world ever since she was born, so I'm sure she knew exactly what that punishment meant. However, she doesn't talk about it much, which probably means that her father made a point to protect her from the dark side of his world. When I was coming home from the business trip and received that call, I truly didn't know what to do. I'd never felt fear like that before in my life. I'm just so glad that the both of them are safe now. I didn't know where or what the man who stabbed my wife and daughter is doing now, but I don't care to know either. After hurting so many people, I'm sure he got what he deserved at the hands of my father-in-law. You never know who you might be messing with, but either way, we should never hurt innocent people like that.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.